are buying these unit buildings with galvanized plumbing, with deferred maintenance, with termite damage. They're paying a premium. The cap rates that these things are trading for here in Southern California are like 2%. It's horrible. And we'll talk more about how to analyze this in the course, but it's unbelievable how, here, look, we talk about buying in the wedge, right? Watch this. We talk about buying in the wedge means you're buying that $500,000 place for say $425, and maybe you have to put 20 grand to work into it or whatever, and you're capitalizing on that difference, that $60,000 or whatever the math is, $55,000. Well, with units, just to use the same numbers, you want to buy units right now. I don't care if it's a duplex, triplex, fourplex, whatever, although you're more likely to get a deal on a duplex than you are a fourplex, eightplex, 10plex, 32plex, whatever it is right now. You're paying here. You're paying effectively $525. You're reverse wedging at buying units right now, unless you can get them pre-market, which I talk a lot about how to find these deals pre-market. But right now it's frustrating. It is very, very frustrating to find a deal on units. You have to overpay today. And really the only people buying units are the people who are willing to overpay and are betting majorly on their future projections for units. I much prefer to buy a condo or a single family house where the day I buy it for $420,000, I know it's in a $500,000 neighborhood. Now I've hedged, I've protected against the market decline substantially. Day one, it's equity in my pocket. All right, now we got, so that's why apartments suck right now. Number 11, what if the market crashes? Buy more. That's my favorite line. Howard Marks said this. I read his book on cycles. He wrote that after the Great Recession. Great book. Recommend it. But look, if the market goes down, it's an opportunity to go shopping. But if you're sitting on the sidelines, not shopping for real estate because you're worried that the market is going to go down, when we don't necessarily have glaring indicators that the market is going to fall, then maybe you're never going to buy. I hate to say it. That ends up being what happens. Or you end up worse being the person that waits out real estate 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. You're jaded because of the stock market bubble. You lost money in stocks. You've been hurt before. By the way, don't take advice from people who've lost like 50% of their money before in stocks or real estate or whatever, because oftentimes there's sort of this jaded mentality that it's going to happen again, and there's so much fear. But those people who waited ended up oftentimes getting in at the top of the market 2005, 2006, because they just couldn't wait anymore. That is not a good time to buy. Buying at the top of the market is not a good time to buy, and there are usually tons of indicators for when we're at the top of the market. I'm just not seeing those indicators now. I've obviously made plenty of videos about the market, so I won't keep talking about the market here, and then we'll open this up for questions here just shortly. Number 12, short-term financing. Be very afraid. Be very, very afraid of hard money deals where people are saying, hey, you found a flip, found a great deal. We could finance it for you within 3 days. We'll just give you a 8 or 9% interest rate. It'll be due and payable in a year or 6 months. Pay us 2 points or whatever. You could do your flip. You'll have sold it before it comes due and payable. Terrible idea. Do not get into short-term financing right now, because if the market does decline, you do not want to have to be forced to sell. Instead, you want to be able to have the opportunity to keep the loan that you have and float whatever payment there is by renting the property or whatever it is you need to do. So stay away from that short-term financing, especially in this interest rate rising economy that we've got, and the projection is we will continue to see. I personally do not recommend variable rate loans right now. Number 13, start small and move. Start with the condos, start with the studios, start with the 1-bedroom, the 2-bedroom, but don't start buying a 4-bedroom, because then when you go to buy your next property and you're going to keep that first one as a rental property, which I talk about so much in my videos on this channel, now all of a sudden the lenders start questioning you. Well, wait a minute. You're going from a 4-bedroom to a duplex, or you're going from a 4-bedroom to a studio? Yeah, we don't believe you. We think you're going to be renting out the property. And the reason you want to take advantage of homeowner occupied loans is because, well, you get cheaper rates. They cost less to do. You have to put less money down. Great programs. All right, that was 13. Start small and move. Number 14, this kind of relates back to what I talked about a little bit earlier with in the event you had a negative cash flow because you bought a property for 5% down. Shut up about PMI. That's what I wrote. I said, shut up about PMI, private mortgage insurance, sometimes known as MIP, which is the FHA version, mortgage insurance premium. Look, it's a slight bump to your interest rate. If you're putting 10% down, your interest rate might be 4.75. You're putting 10% down. Now you've got mortgage insurance. You might be looking at 5.25. Big deal. Do your numbers, find a better deal, but don't get so turned off to real estate because of, oh, I don't want to have to pay mortgage insurance. It's nonsense. Then number 15, this is huge. This is something I'm going into. I've got a whole section dedicated to in the real estate course. Again, link below. Do not over improve. And I'm going to break apart exactly what not to do, what to do, what not to do, materials to buy, materials not to buy, contractors to hire, contractors not to hire, when it's okay to do things yourself, all of that. But people get into houses, and this is where they get hurt. They get in, they go, ooh, this is a wedge deal. Well, let's get a kitchen contractor to come out. The worst, because now all of a sudden, sorry if any of y'all kitchen contractors, but your kitchen contractor come out. Let's open this wall. Let's open this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Look, that's great. If you want a beautiful kitchen, you want to show off to your friends and family, you want to be an entertainer, fine. But know that you're spending money on making yourself feel happy by having this open kitchen and all these nice benefits and flashy things that you could show off and pendant lights and this, that, or whatever that you could show off to people. That's fine. If you want to be the entertainer, you want to live in a nice place, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are the millionaire real estate investor and you're looking at real estate as I'm going to live here for a year or two, then I'm going to rent out the property, you do not go with some designer kitchen that's costing you $50,000 to $60,000. Every three-bedroom house that I go into, that is 1,400 square feet and has a small kitchen, I look at it as 20 or less. That is $20,000 or less. Appliances, quartz countertops, stainless sink, faucet, plumbing, GFCIs, under cabinet lights, can lights, cabinets, you name it. Under 20K. That's it. I'm sick of seeing people spend $60,000, $80,000 on kitchen remodel projects because they're going nuts and they're over improving. And then the theory is, oh, well, if I over improve my house, it'll be able to sell for more. Well, that leads to number 16. Who cares about selling if you're never going to sell? Stop caring about the market value of the property. And, oh, if I put this kitchen in, I'm going to be able to sell it for some more. Stop saying that crap. It's a bunch of baloney. Because why are you selling? Why are you thinking about selling? I look at it as if I put a cheap $20,000 kitchen in here, or I put an $80,000 kitchen in here, an appraiser is going to come in when I go to get my credit line against that property. You talk a lot about credit lines too. You go to get my credit line against that property to basically do a BRRRR method, but like different with a credit line. I much prefer that. Many reasons for this, too detailed for now. But anyway, now the appraiser isn't going to give me a dime more because I spent 80 grand on the kitchen versus 20 grand. He's going to walk in and go, new kitchen. All right, checked off the list. Very cool. Appraisers don't care about that stuff. It's sad. It's a sad industry that peddles wrong information for higher resale values. And ultimately, if you're that millionaire real estate investor, why are you thinking about selling anyway? It's an immediate loss of 6 to 7% of your equity, money in your pocket. You may as well just take your wallet out and give 6 to 7% away like that when you choose to sell. And people are like, Kevin, you're a real estate broker and you're telling people this? Like, yeah, that's the first question I have when I meet with sellers. I'm like, why are you selling? Why don't you rent this? And look, a lot of people legitimately just do not want to invest in real estate. That's fine. Then don't buy the real estate investing course. Don't tell anybody you're a real estate investor. You're just somebody who buys to live there. You want to move. You want to move your money over so you can buy a bigger, fancier house, or you want to go retire somewhere. Fine, but you're not an investor. All right. All right. When it comes time to move, this is another thing that blows my mind is I'm tired of people sending me links to online virtual property management companies where basically you have some app that's going to manage your property for you. It's horrible. You need a property manager unless you have a lot of investing experience. And honestly, when you ask yourself, oh, a property manager is going to cost me $150 a month, and then you figure out, oh, wait, it's also tax deductible because it's an expense. Is it really worth $100 out of my pocket to manage the property myself, risk getting sued? And look, I don't do property management for other people, so I don't want you to think I'm like biased by telling you to get a manager. I just see people get sued. I see people do it wrong. I see people leave money on the table. I see people do the wrong improvements. I see people not follow up with the minimum mandatory safety requirements that are going to be the things that when those properties burn down because they didn't follow the rules, their insurance company is going to go, you sucked. You didn't do the minimum property maintenance you were required to as a landlord, and you're representing yourself as a property manager. We're not paying out your claim. If you want to be that person, fine. If you think you know everything, go ahead. Property management is very difficult, and it's not worth $100 a month out of your pocket or whatever it costs. I mean, that's just a quick little ballpark based on average sort of rents and properties that I deal with around here. But even if you're up for the challenge, I do have an entire property management section in the course. In fact, I'm thinking about getting my mother-in-law to do some videos with me on it because she's got 35 years in property management. Boy, does she have stories of people who came to her basically asking for a bailout because they got themselves into some hot messes with tenants. Tenants, remember this, tenants' possession is 9/10 of the law. That is, whoever's got the keys, whoever's got a closet full of junk, they're the ones that are staying. Don't think you can just call a cop and have them kicked out. It's really tough. Tenants' rights. Whew. All right, number 18, have a formula. This is big. You got to have a formula when you do these properties. When you go into a wedge deal and you want to remodel a property, you better have a formula, because if you're that kind of person that's going to go in and, all right, we're going to do a remodel. And then contractor, we're closing escrow on this day. Let's go in and remodel. And then throughout the next 6 weeks of a remodel, you're like, you're standing there and you're like, maybe it'd be cool if we added a light over there. Or you know what? It'd be cool if we put some molding over there. Oh, you know what? This would be a cool upgrade. All these little cha-ching, 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 cha-ching change orders, waste the money. You should be going in with a plan to where basically if when you close escrow and somebody goes to remodel your property for you, or you're coordinating it or a contractor's doing it, the whole plan gets executed and your goal is not to change your mind. Don't add anything. Don't change your mind. Try to plan as much as possible up front. Now, look, there are always going to be changes and additions in construction, but don't be that person that's like, this would be cool. Yeah, let's add those pendant lights. No, waste of money. Remember, investing, folks. So that's how number 18, have a formula. Number 19, respect the contractors and the people that work for you. My gosh, I know so many experienced investors that have absolutely no respect for the people that work for them. And so what happens? Bid prices go up. Contractors add what's known as, and swearing warning here. So if anybody has children listening, just blur it out for a second. The douchebag tax. That is what contractors tell me they add to bids when people are mean to them. I talk a lot in the course. I know I keep referencing the course, but it's because, look, YouTube doesn't care about this highly detailed information. The videos don't get pushed. I try. Look at my last video where I made, or one of my last videos where I showed everybody how to run people's credit. That's why we've got, this is why you should also subscribe. This is why we have 8 really big exposed videos coming out between now and the end of the year. It's going to be really cool. So I'm going to be posting a little less, but hit that notification bell. But anyway, respect people, know the tricks. This is another good thing, is know the tricks for getting the best price. Way too many to list, nowhere to shop. It's amazing. Have that formula. That really helps you out. So 18, 19, contractors formula is great. Number 20. So many people are like, oh, I don't want to get started in real estate until I have a mentor. I want a mentor, and then I'll consider getting into real estate. Guess what your best free mentor ever is? Well, first of all, this channel, so subscribe. But second of all, a real estate agent that invests in real estate. I know that sounds mind-blowing, but think about it. A real estate agent is paid when you close a deal. So while you're shopping for real estate, while you're running deals by the agent, while you're asking them, hey, is this a good deal? Is this a good area? Should I buy here? Should I buy there? What should I renovate? What should I not renovate? They're giving you information for free. They're like your mentor. Now, obviously, you want an agent that has your best interests in mind. Like for that, definitely smash the like button, because you want a great agent that has your best interest in mind and isn't just trying to like close you on a deal. But you know, you'll be able to flush that out pretty quickly. You want somebody who invests in real estate. And yeah, that's number 20, your best real estate mentor right there. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. I've been blabbing for about 37 minutes now with the little 2-minute wait at the beginning. We'll do a few minutes of questions here. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've appreciated these 20 millionaire rules for investing. Sorry, I'm not using the DSLR to film today. It's all set up for an exposed video we're doing. So we're just using the little iMac camera here, but I do have the mic. So hopefully the audio is good. We got the Yeti going. All right, what do we got here? I want some questions. Thank you so much, Brian Tran. Appreciate it. Bigger pockets. Oh, I got a video coming out on the book they released. I read their whole book already. 20 years you will make money on a property. I think you can make a lot more money before 20 years. Yeah, don't worry, Lisa. Like, if you don't have a lot of time, that's all right. You can definitely make money. Aaron, thank you so much for the shout out on the course. All right, Mel, newbie here. Just got your course. I'm pre-approved in the market for a property. Can I send you a listing and get your opinion on a good wedge deal if it's a good wedge deal? Yes, the best way to do that is actually post a comment in the course, and then what I'll do, it'll take me a few days, but I'll actually film a video response to your wedge deal and give you some opinions, because that way everybody that's in the course can kind of see how I look at that wedge deal. So thank you for that, Mel. That's awesome. We'll definitely take care of you. Again, give me a few days. Remember, people, I'm not just somebody who sits around and YouTubes all day long. I do have a full-time real estate career as well, and we just took 4 new contracts within the last week. So like, my mind's been a little blown lately. Although I did just upload a bunch of new lectures here this morning, but that's because I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I live in California and have about 15K in cash, 40K in stocks, and approved for a HELOC for 150K. Look, hey, Tiago, that's awesome, man. Any suggestions? Look, 150K, you could buy yourself a wedge deal. You could buy something for 400 grand, $450,000 or whatever. Now you're going to put in $90,000 as your down payment. Figure you've got another 10K in closing costs and prepaids. Although I highly recommend that you take a higher interest rate, unless you're going to keep the property forever. If you're going to flip the property, you can get a higher interest rate and you can cut your closing costs to 0. If you're going to flip out of the thing, if you're going to keep it long-term, fine. Then budget about 50 to 60K for fix up, especially if you're going to keep it as a rental. Now you're in about that 150K that you had on your HELOC. Do not touch your stocks. Leave those stocks as reserves for the deal. Buy that deal, and then after you buy that, start lopping off money on that HELOC. That's what you want to do with the HELOC, is you play the real estate investing game and then you pay that thing off. I have access to $340,000 in credit lines, and my goal is have those things paid off all the time so I can jump on deals. That's why credit lines are great. And when you buy more properties, you get to establish more credit lines. All right, what else we got? What about a home building partnership? I hate building. Construction is hard. It's very difficult. Be very, very, very careful. RE. Oh yeah. Hey, what's up, man? You're here. Yeah, you were the one emailing me. Thank you so much. They dropped the price from $350 to $335. Is it closer to being a wedge now? I would float out to see, can you get that thing for 300K? Remember, it's on a busier street, so you're always going to be penalized by at least 10% for being on a busier street. And when I add 10% to 335, I'm looking at almost $370,000. You can buy remodel places for 380 grand over there. Why are you going to buy a fixer if you can get a remodel place for 380 to 390 grand and yours is on a busy street? It's too high. So, gotta start door knocking. That's a great way. Let's see. When the economy falls, will people resort to living in tents, leasing land on campgrounds, and will campgrounds be the next hot investment? No. What do you think about using DocuSign for lease contracts? Yes. So I like using DocuSign, but it's mandatory. And I talk about this specifically in detail in the investing course, is it's very important that you verify people's social security numbers. You actually see their social security card, their passport, their driver's license. You see all of this in person, physical copies, and you take pictures of them. You document what it is you're seeing. So yes, DocuSign is fine for contracts, but I want real documentation. Do you need to have domestic skills, electrician, before you start? No. It's a good idea to learn from your contractors. Look, I learned by what I did is I turned off the power to a house. I changed 40 outlets in a house. Then I had an electrician come in and I paid him like $100. Hey, tell me what I did wrong. And he showed me what I did wrong on literally every single outlet. And then I'm like, all right, I did it again. I did them all the way he told me to do them. He came back and he goes, I'd hire you. Now I know how to do outlets the right way. I've probably changed 1,000 outlets or more. What about co-op that allows you to rent it for 2 years within a 5-year period? I don't really understand that. It only allows you to rent it for 2 years within 5-year window. Look, if I move away from the property and I can only rent it for a max of 2 years, do I have to kick out the tenant? I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly, but if I'm understanding it correctly, I don't like that. 78, perfect time to sell and retire. Yeah. Real estate course price is actually my current half of my month's salary, but I will buy it. Please don't raise the price before December. I will buy it this month. Oh, Mohammed. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. You're going to learn so much. You're going to love it. It's because you're the man. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Market crashing, your take. Watch my last videos on the market. Welcome. How's everyone doing? Let's get some more light here. Look at that. Now we can actually see subscribe on the live. So as you folks know, I always like to use the first 3 minutes to kind of wait. Is the mic on? Mic's on, I hope. Good. First 3 minutes of this video, we're kind of... Well, hello, everybody.
Are usually plan B deals. So if you can get conventional financing, that's plan A. So plan B, you usually do private money because you have some sort of issue with assets, income, or the property. So in this case, there was some obvious termite damage, dry rot, maybe a little water damage. With this scenario, we're able to bypass that. This isn't Kevin's situation, but other people have a income issue. Maybe they're self-employed and they have great income in 2008, but to use self-employed income, you need to have that filed on your tax return.
Maybe you don't want to sell off those stocks like you had mentioned because you'd have to pay capital gains on them. So you take out a second
or occupied purchases. And third issue, credit. If you're under 620, 640, a lot of loan programs will no longer lend to you.
Well, Brian, these days it seems like being self-employed is all the rage. Everybody wants to be the entrepreneur, hustle and be self-employed, get those tax deductions. But how does that hurt their ability to buy real estate? So they write everything off, but why does that matter compared to maybe somebody who's a W-2 employee? And which one has a better chance at investing more in real estate in the long run?
Well, as a self-employed individual myself, you have a goal of minimizing your taxes. Let's just say it out loud. So what most self-employed borrowers do is they write off everything they can in order to minimize their taxes. And that's a great thing to do until it comes time to get a loan. So as lenders, we look at your net income. And as a W-2 employee, we look at your gross income. So there's a serious haircut to the income you can use, especially for those who write off everything possible.
So just for clarity, a W-2 income borrower is really somebody who has a regular job. So you get paid hourly or you're on a salary. That enables you to generally qualify all of your income because you're not writing off so many business expenses. So generally, and I do this as a real estate broker as well, when people come in and make an offer on a house and they come in with a pre-approval letter, one of the first questions I do when I ask the lender is this a self-employed borrower and is the income going up or is it going down?
No, it's a great question to ask, and it's very important. They also look very closely, underwriters look very closely at how your income's trending. And so that's another piece of the puzzle that's not a problem for a salaried employee.
Now, is it true that somebody who goes to college for, say, 4 years for engineering and then gets an engineering job for $80,000 a year right out of college can buy a house day one at their job?
That is correct. So underwriters will look at your work history. If you go to school and you get a job that's in line with your training, then that 4 years, 2 years, whatever the duration of your education was, counts as work history for you. You could borrow right away.
A big question that comes up all of the time is people want to know, how can I buy a house and then rent that out and at the same time buy another house to live in? That way they can take advantage of those first-time homebuyer loans. Buy the first one with 5 or 10% down, buy the next one with 5 or 10% down. Could you shed some light on how that works and clear up that confusion a little bit?
Absolutely, Kevin. When you buy a house as owner-occupied purchase, you could put 5%, 3%, 3.5%, just call it a low down payment option, get in a house. You need to buy the house with the intention of living in it. And when you come time to move up or just move over, you can rent the house you're vacating. You're buying again as an owner-occupied purchaser. You can put 3.5% down. You can use the rental income from the house you're vacating to help you qualify. You can get a lease signed and use 75% of that lease towards your usable income for your purchase.
That's perfect. So basically, just as long as I have a lease signed before I close on my second house on my first one, which could be dated maybe a month out from when I vacate the first one, I'm golden.
That's correct. I mean, it doesn't have to go bang bang. You just have to have a lease in place. It could be forward lease, and you can have plenty of time to move. But that lease needs to be signed, and you can use it.
Now, earlier you mentioned this person called an underwriter. A lot of people who have been through loans before hate that word and cringe at the word underwriter. Who is an underwriter, and why are they so mean to people?
I can't answer your second question. But so they are the gatekeeper. They work for the bank, and they make sure if we're getting a conventional loan that all the conventional guidelines are followed. If we're getting an FHA loan, that all the FHA guidelines are followed. Now, some of these guidelines are murky at best. Sadly, they're not all black and white. And so sometimes you'll get an underwriter who's friendly to you, and sometimes you'll get one who's not. So I believe you attract more flies with honey. I'm always nice to my underwriters, but they're not all created equally.
So it sounds like there's some discretion in what underwriters can do, but it also sounds like these are generally people who are maybe on salary that don't really care if the deal happens or not, so they're incentivized to protect the bank, whereas maybe you, who, and you maybe can clarify this, are on commission for getting that loan to close.
Yeah, so I like most mortgage brokers, loan officers, it's commission-based business. We're completely motivated to get these loans closed. A lot of times the underwriters aren't as eager to get it done.
So Brian, what happens then if a loan goes bad? Is it your fault? Is it the underwriter's fault? Does it matter? Does it affect you?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I always think the buck stops here. It's the loan officer's responsibility to get a loan done. Now, one thing as a mortgage broker, what you can do is, and like I said, some of the guidelines are gray. If one underwriter doesn't like it, you can take it to another lender. If you feel like you have a case being made, get it approved somewhere else. So there's always that option.
Oh, so in other words, if one lender denies you upfront for a loan, you could switch lenders and maybe get a nicer underwriter, or even a lending platform or bank that isn't as stringent as maybe where you were originally.
So some lenders will have additional overlays, and that's additional restrictions that they and only they have. So in that case, it'd make a lot of sense to move it to a different lender if that issue that you're having has to do with a specific guideline that they have.
That's interesting. So if one lender says our maximum debt to income ratio is, say, 45%, which means you could spend up to 45% of your income on debts, including your housing and, say, car payment or whatever, is it then possible that another lender might lend you up to 47%, let's say?
Yes, that's true. So you can actually get an approval through DU, which is Fannie Mae's underwriting system, up to 49.99%. And often lenders will have a 45% overlay or a 43% overlay, where I work with lenders who, as long as you have an approval, they'll close the loan.
That's interesting. So an overlay is really something that says, look, Fannie Mae will buy this loan up to 49.99% debt to income, but some banks or whatever might want to be more conservative and say, no, we're not lending for more than 45% or over 47%.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think the fear is that they don't want to be stuck holding the loan should anything change. But that is true. These lenders, they'll have additional overlays. Try to work with the ones who don't.
Does that mean the bank that is making the original loan doesn't want to keep that loan? They don't want to collect that interest from you?
Some will, but what most often happens is once a loan is completed, then they will package them together and sell them, recoup their cash to then make more loans. Package them together, sell them. And they're not in the business of holding loans. as much in the business of doing loans.
That sounds like it's the difference between making money on doing the loan, taking a loan fee, as opposed to making money by collecting the interest, which they pass along to whomever buys these loans in the future.
That's correct. And with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, there's such a available pool of buyers for those that they're very easy to sell, and oftentimes banks will sell those. When you get into the jumbo space, that's more unique. It's harder to sell those for banks, so it's more often you'll see them hold those loans. They're called portfolio loans, and they don't follow Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines, but they follow their own guidelines.
There's a lot of talk about conventional loans versus FHA loans, and people hear that and think, well, I want to be conventional. What's the difference between those?
So FHA loan is a government-insured loan. A conventional loan is a private loan made by a bank. They're both great loans. They're great for first-time home buyers. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer. What I've found is that people with lower FICO scores have a lower payment with an FHA loan, where people with stronger, higher FICO scores have a better payment have a lower payment with conventional loans.
In effect, then, at the end, there's no difference necessarily to the buyer then, or is there any practice?
Граната! Хуярь медведя! Ты куда? Да ты чё там пиздишь? Хуйло! Вот хуйло! Конец тебе! Блять, Версачи, ми!
Давай!
practical difference between a conventional and an FHA loan?
There's not a big difference. If you're putting less than 20% down, your loan's going to have mortgage insurance. If it's an FHA loan, the mortgage insurance is going to be government sponsored. If it's not, it's going to be private mortgage insurance. You may have heard PMI. They both have mortgage insurance. However, the FHA loan has mortgage insurance for the life of the loan, where the conventional loan will fall off once you have 20% equity based on your purchase price and normal payments.
Nice. So with a conventional loan, you can actually get rid of mortgage insurance, but with FHA, it stays forever. One thing that I advocate a lot on my channel is encouraging people to buy something, maybe a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, and then rent out another room. How does renting out rooms help people when maybe they go to qualify for another property, or does it even? In which case, that's also where the question comes up. You should always declare your rental income, but a lot of people take rental income from roommates as cash and don't declare it. So on the same note, is there sort of a downside to not declaring your roommate rental income?
So the standard guideline for Fannie Mae loans is that for a 1-unit property, you can't have what's called boarders income. So you can have it, you just can't use it as usable income on a loan. So you can't use rental income on a 1-unit property to help you qualify for that property. But there's a program, it's called Home Ready. It's a subset of Fannie Mae, and they allow boarders income to help you qualify. And yes, it needs to be reported to you to be used, but it's a nice niche program that allows you to use that extra income if you need it.
That's really interesting. So if you don't need the extra income, don't pay the IRS and take cash. No, don't do that. Pay the IRS what you owe them. No, you didn't see that either. But actually, in reality, that's really neat. So somebody who is constantly renting to roommates could, in theory, hop to another house and own more property long term by constantly being able to use roommate income by doing this Home Ready program.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a great niche program. A lot of people don't know about it. It's out there. I encourage you to, if needed, use it.
Sorry, the mic was dead for our IRS jokes, so you had to deal with the other mic. Oh well, let's keep going. Now we'll talk about grant programs. This comes up a lot for people that maybe have low to median income but still want to be homeowners and experience the benefits of home ownership. And maybe they don't have as much money necessarily to put down. Maybe they don't have the 3% to put down. Are there any programs for these folks?
There are a few. The best one that comes to mind is the Platinum program. With this, you can get up to 5% grant, goes towards your down payment or closing costs. You can pair it with a 3% down conventional loan or a 3.5% down FHA loan. So essentially, all your down payment, closing costs are covered. Also, what's nice, if you're a firefighter, police officer, a nurse, a few other occupations, the grant is really a gift. It's forgiven day one, where if you're not one of those occupations, it's forgiven after 3 years. If you refinance, sell within 3 years, then you need to pay it back.
Is that a California-only product?
It actually is. So that is a California program.
So check with your local lenders, call them to find out what kind of grant programs exist. Just pick up the phone and go, what kind of grant programs you got? But let's talk a little bit about what normal requirements might be for a grant program loan. What kind of income or credit would we be looking at to be able to qualify for this?
So you typically need a 640 credit score, and you need to qualify based on income and a DTI ratio. Usually the restrictions are you can't make too much income. So it's a great program. They're trying to help people out. But if you're really doing well on your own, then, I guess they don't want to help you. So if you make too much income, you won't qualify. But in Ventura County, the income limit's quite high. It's $190,000 for this Platinum program. So I think, most people fit in it.
That's incredible. I'm going to go buy a jet and then qualify for this Platinum program now. Let's write off every dime of income. A lot of folks that watch YouTube videos on real estate want to get into investing in real estate. What do you think the best way is for people to start investing in real estate?
I think the best way is to buy your first house, to get roommates if you need to, have your parents help you, get together with your friends, just get in the ownership game, and then as we talked about earlier, you can move up, you can rent it, do it again.
What downsides would there be to taking out say a 15-year loan over a 30-year loan? There are a lot of folks that advocate don't buy a house unless you can qualify for a 15-year loan. What are your thoughts on that as a lender?
I mean, in my experience, only old people do that.
All right, that answers that.
No, so you'll have a higher payment you need to make. If you try to rent the property later, you'll have a higher expense that you need to cover. I do run into people who are late 40s, 50s, 60s. They say, hey, I don't want to be paying for this mortgage when I'm, 75 years old. I want a 15-year fixed. It makes sense. But for anyone who's younger or who expects to do any type of investing post that purchase, I think a 30-year fix is just the best way to go.
Well, on that note, do they still do 40-year fixed?
They're out there. I don't do too many of them, but they're out there.
How do you get it?
Do I hear 50? I see that they're in the jumbo space is more often where I see a 40-year fixed, and I think it has to do with the payment being so large and the lenders getting creative with the guidelines and realizing, hey, this payment's going to be big. It's going to be hard for people to qualify for. So they allow you to stretch it out. People buying into jumbo space, you usually already have to have great credit. You have to have great income. So I think they're just taking an educated risk there. I don't see a 40-year, low balance conventional fixed available. Although if it does come out, I'll be the first to tell Kevin about it. He can tell all you guys.
So what are the absolute worst things somebody could do while they're in the process of buying a home or investment property or whatever, where you just want to pull your hair out because they just risked the deal bombing because of whatever it is they did?
Well, my favorite is if you're already at the highest debt to income ratio you possibly can get approved for, and then you go out and shop for furniture, and hey, we open this credit card, 0% interest, but it's really not 0% interest in the view of an underwriter. What happens is you need to add that liability to your liabilities. Your debt to income's too high. You no longer qualify. That's brutal, and that does happen. Yeah, bringing cash out to close, that's always tough. You need to source all your money. Another great one is Brian. I just quit my job.
Couldn't you wait until the loan closed?
One more week.
Like, I couldn't take another week.
I had someone switch jobs, and it just delayed the process. If you switch jobs, if it's in the same industry, I don't advise it. It doesn't kill the deal dead. It just adds layers, adds time, kind of pain in the butt.
I think that reminds me of when I was 19 years old and bought one of our first properties and accidentally paid for the appraisal out of my business account, but my deposit and all my money was coming from my personal account, which is really where it should have all come from. It caused some complexity.
That type of thing happens more than you would expect, and all funds need to be sourced. We want to make sure you're not getting sort of a hidden gift, and you're not getting any type of loan to get a loan. So we provide bank statements. Money needs to come from the accounts that we provided bank statements for.
Now, Brian, if I get another comment on my channel that tells me we're about to see 2008 over again, I'm going to vomit. Can you comment a little bit on why today is different? Oh, and that's a good one. This time's different. Why today is different, really, from 2008?
I agree with you. We're not in 2008. In 2008, there was, bakers getting loans saying they made $200,000, and they were believing that. So there's not stated income anymore. Owner-occupied transactions, because of Dodd-Frank, there's the ability to repay. You need to prove your ability to repay. And everybody who's getting loans today, owner-occupied loans, is qualifying based on credit, income, and assets.
So what about those good old ninja loans? No job, no income, no assets? Come on, where are those, Brian? And the 40-year. I want both. Ninja 40-year.
Ninja 40-year? I think you're onto something.
Meet Kevin Financial.
No worries. Yeah, there's none of that anymore. You need to completely qualify for your loans. Now, For investment properties, there's actually some creative financing options. For example, you can qualify based on the rental income of the property. So they don't look at the borrower's income at all. But I don't think it's like a crazy 2008 situation, because the rent from the property is servicing the loan that's being done. So they're usually not high loan to value loans. But in the investment property space, they're getting a little creative. Owner-occupied transactions are still very tough. I have a 3 to 6 inch stack of papers for every loan. They're all a bear. They're not easy. And anyone who says they are, they're wrong.
Well, it's good to hear that subprime lending is out of the picture for the time being, at least. That'll hopefully prevent any kind of large...
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Saturday 9 a.m. live for Pacific time. If you're just joining, remember, we're going to start the conversation about 3 minutes into the video. So, and if you're already here, welcome. We can talk. Just make sure, see, last time, here we go. Okay, perfect. We're good. So welcome all in. We're going to get started again 3 minutes into the video. So if you're just clicking in, remember, we'll really get into the content in about 3 minutes. And today we're going to talk about some fun things. We're going to talk about, I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter on in terms of pricing real estate. But the big thing I want you folks to take away from this pricing real estate talk is negotiating real estate. I think that'll be really fun, really good kind of insight in terms of what sellers think, what buyers think when it comes to pricing real estate, what is highballing, what is lowballing. And also we'll talk a little bit about what the market's doing. But yeah, in the meantime, remember, I'm going to wait another 2 minutes for folks to join. Welcome on in, everybody. What's up, Tom? Let's see here. We'll grab something else. Got some numbers for us, too. I love bringing numbers. And what do we got? At 9:03, we'll get started. And some markers, too. Still got to get that whiteboard. But yeah, so then we're going to be sharing a lot of insight and detail about pricing, and I think it'll be good, especially if you're looking to buy, really understand and take away what is on sellers' minds, or if you're going to sell, how you can maximize your dollar, and you know, some strategies related to that, some negotiating tips. And we'll get that started in about 1 minute and 15 seconds here as some more people join. Kevin, a video on how to get on track to get commercial loans from banks. Wow, what do you got going on? You got a commercial deal coming in? I found 2 house for 1 price on the market. Is that fishy? That sounds awesome. Is that if it's on Craigslist, it's fishy. So thank you all for joining again. We got another 55 seconds here, and then we'll fly right through our content today. I'm going to keep the content on pricing a little bit shorter because I really want to open up a dialogue and see what questions you all have, maybe some samples and scenarios you have. So I'd say for about first 10 minutes or so, we'll just kind of get through the topic and then open it up to everybody's questions. So we're going to start here pretty soon. Welcome, everybody. What time is it? It is 9:02 and 54 seconds. That means we're going to start in actually this live stream. Oh, I started the live like 20 seconds late. So we're going to wait another 20 seconds. It was still at the 9 o'clock dot that I started the live. So thanks, Carlos. Would I spend $15K on a rehab to get an extra $300K a month in rent? That doesn't sound that bad. Let's do some really quick math. That's 3,600 divided by 15K. That's 24%, man. That's awesome. That's awesome deal. Absolutely, I would. All right, folks. Here we go. Let's get into pricing real estate. Maybe we'll talk about rentals briefly at the end. But really, if you are a buyer, this is really important to you. If you are a seller, this is going to be super important to you, because I want you folks to be able to know what it's like for agents to price real estate out there, how real estate sells, the different strategies that go into it. Again, we're going to keep it relatively short because it's not the most exciting topic, but I want to open it up to questions and scenarios. So let's get right into it. Let's start with seller pricing. Actually, forget that. Let's start with buyer pricing. It makes more sense to start with buyer pricing. And when we understand buyer pricing, what we're looking at this whole discussion from, or the point of view we're looking at it from, is that we're a buyer and we want to know, how are we going to get a good deal? How are we going to make sure that we're not getting scammed? Let's set some very basic things up first. The most basic question you should always ask anytime a property is on the market and you're thinking about buying it, the very first question should be, how many days has this been on the market? And the very second question is, does it have any offers? Now, there are two different levels of pricing brackets. There is the median price range. The median price range is going to be basically your middle market. That's everything below the middle and everything about 30% above the middle. So for example, if your median pricing is $600K, then everything up to about from $0 to $780,000 would be considered median pricing. And keep that in mind as one level. Then you've got everything above 780K, everything 30% above the median. That's a different pricing tier. And they both have their own considerations. But let's first hit, if you're buying a median price property, which realistically, if you're an investor, you want to buy a median price property. If you buy a median price property and you're looking at a deal, you see something on the market, first question again, how many days has it been on the market? If it's been on the market 0, 1, 2, 3 days, it's going to be a little tough to get the price down on that. And you might not have a read yet on how hot that deal is. But the very second question you want to find out is, how many offers does the property have? If it has 0 offers at 1, 2, or 3 days, doesn't necessarily mean anything yet. If it already has offers, it's probably a very well-priced deal. So this is that buyer mindset you want to have, is you're going to use days on the market to give you sort of a guide as far as how well is this deal priced in accordance with the market. There's some caveats. We'll hit on those too. But if it's been on the market for 30 days and there are no offers and it's a median price property, it's overpriced. It's very, very simple. But here's the caveat to this. When you're buying a property, in order to know that the market has actually accurately priced the property, it has to be marketed. So if it's a wholesaler that's selling a deal, let's say, and the property is not on the market, you as a buyer who might be buying from that wholesaler, you might be able to get a good deal. Because if something's not on the market doesn't have the opportunity to price it, and you could very well get a very good deal. Then we've got, what if the property has multiple offers? A lot of folks, if it's a median price property, a lot of folks wonder, well, Kevin, I don't want to get into a bidding war. Am I going to get scammed if I'm in a bidding war? Not necessarily. Oftentimes, if a property is in a bidding war, it's an indicator that the property was priced low. And there are strategic ways to price this. I'm going to show you guys exactly this little chart that I use when we talk about seller pricing, which will be really crucial for you as a buyer to understand what's on sellers' minds, or if you're a seller, what should be on your mind in terms of how the market actually works. So then we've got this sort of other tier, and that's the tier that's luxury. It's above the median, 30+% above the median. So that market, what's up, folks? Thanks for joining. That market, you generally have more flexibility built into the price on purpose, and asking if there are any offers oftentimes doesn't really indicate value. That is, if a property is priced at, say, $1 million, and the median price in an area is $600K, it doesn't necessarily mean that the property is overpriced at $1 million if there are no offers after 30 days, because the buyer pool is generally so much smaller once you get above 30% of the median. However, and you're going to see this in the seller section, luxury properties are usually priced on purpose to leave some meat on the bone, so to speak, leave some good negotiating room. So you don't really want to touch those for investing those. You shouldn't be investing in the luxury market unless for some reason you're like a luxury architect or luxury contractor or broker that just, that's your life and that's your lifestyle. As you flip in that range or you invest in that range, that's fine. But for most people, you want to be buying the median. They're going to be easier to rent. They're going to be easier to sell. Always buy the median. Now, how about this? In terms of what's the best kind of property to buy when you're a buyer, you want to get that property that ideally has not followed all of the rules of being a good listing. That is, they've done the job of putting it on the MLS, but they didn't put any pictures. Let's say they just put a picture of the outside of the house. These are my favorite to buy because oftentimes I'll go to these properties, and this is by far the best kind of property to buy, in my opinion. You walk in, let's say it's a single family or it's a duplex or whatever. You walk in, and the people who've owned it have spent tons of money upgrading the furnace, the roof, the windows, the water heater, all the systems of the house. but it's got shag carpet and wallpaper and acoustic ceiling, and the kitchen's gross and the bathrooms are moldy. By far, hands down, the best property to buy because there are no pictures of it online. So it's basically kind of giving the seller a disadvantage at actually properly marketing the property because most people shut down when they see that. And it doesn't give people the opportunity to realize, wait a minute, all the expensive stuff is done. The $10K roof is done. The $2,000, $3,000 furnace is done. The air conditioner is done. All the expensive stuff is done. The cheap stuff is left, which then you get to essentially buy in the wedge of the market. That's a little bit of a recap on buying in the wedge. So number 1 and 2 key when you're a buyer to make sure you're not getting scammed when you're buying, ask first question, how many days has it been on the market? Then how many offers are there? And if it's a median price property or within 30% of the median or entirely below it, then if there are offers, it's a well-priced property. The odds of you being able to negotiate a lot off the price are very low. In fact, unless those are lowball offers, which you can usually fish out whether they're low offers or where they are, and we'll talk about confidentiality of offers in a second, then it doesn't make sense to lowball or try to negotiate super hard on something that already has multiple offers. You just won't get it. So then what about this? So you're looking at a median price property. It's been on the market for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and it doesn't have any offers. And there's no indicator that anybody's going to be writing an offer. And keep in mind, when agents say, oh, we're getting a lot of activity, that's a great sign that there's nothing happening. So you want to know if there are offers. That's it. If there aren't any offers, forget about it. If there were offers and they didn't work out, doesn't matter. So here's what you do. Properties on the market, no offers, you come in low. Now, you have to balance where you come in low, and you have to sort of use the comps to guide you, but you also have to use market conditions to guide you, which we're going to talk about in a second. Right now, comps are super high in our area, but prices are less than what comps are. So if you're paying comp value for something, which is just what other properties have sold for earlier in the year, then you're overpaying and you're getting scammed. However, that leads to a little bit of a delicate scenario right now because right now sellers in a market that's falling, sellers think their property is worth more because they're looking at what things had sold for, but they don't realize yet that prices have come down, which actually makes it a little bit harder for buyers to negotiate deals right now. I recommend that if you are buying right now, really negotiate, see what the comps are, try to get in at least 5% below the comps and stay firm. As long as there aren't offers or other offers, and there's a motivated seller, you're probably going to be able to get a good deal. But if you're paying comp value right now in an area that's showing signs of weakness, could be a problem. There are other areas that are still booming, and that's great. Other areas that have not been affected yet by the slowing, that's fine. Just be careful. If you start seeing signs of slowing in other areas of the country, you want to keep that in mind for your areas as well in terms of what's to come, right? So really, you want to be in a market where things aren't really getting offers that fast, and you have the potential to maybe try to get a better deal. I would highly recommend that you grind. I hate to say it, but write those lower offers. Now, what is a lowball offer? Quick rule of thumb on this. Generally, if you're coming in more than 10% below the asking price, I usually recommend starting with a verbal. That is, if a place is listed for $880,000 and you're going to come in at $800K because you like the house, but you want to pay $800 for it, then you might pick up the phone first or have your agent call first to go, hey, what would you guys think about an $800 offer? And you'll know really quickly, oh, no way. That would be insulting. They'll tell you. So, and at that point, you just have to wait for them to reduce their price. There's a funny thing in real estate that all sellers seem to think that, well, if somebody thinks the house is overpriced, they'll just write me a low offer. It doesn't work that way. Psychologically, people don't want to insult other people or offend other people. So if a house is really worth $800,000 and a seller's listed at $880,000, the odds of somebody actually writing that $800,000 offer are pretty low because 10%, that's an insult to a lot of people. And most buyers will just wait until the price comes within about 3 to 4% of where they want to offer before they actually write an offer. It's kind of an interesting thing to know. Remember, we're going to just go through, we've just almost finished buyer pricing here. We're going to go into seller pricing. I'm going to talk about the market. Then we're going to open it all up to questions. So let's see. Super excited to answer some questions here. All right. So now if you're an investor, it actually really, no matter what kind of buyer you are, especially if you watched my video yesterday in terms of how you could be a home buyer and you could hack lenders to basically create this net worth portfolio for you, then you want to be that person that's always thinking with an investor mindset. And if you're thinking with an investor mindset, I would recommend don't get too emotional. If you miss out on a deal because you were trying to come in a little bit lower and all of a sudden somebody swoops in and writes a higher offer, unless you are dying to get in or you are running up on your lease and you just want to get in, you just want to be over it, because honestly, at some point, you're going to get tired of missing deals and then it's just like, just give me this one. There will always be other deals. So there's that balance. You have to sort of evaluate sort of your own emotional barometer as far as where you stand in terms of how much do you really want to negotiate and grind. But I think this little buyer segment here gives you some really incredible ideas in terms of how to price real estate when you're a buyer and how to make sure you're not overpaying. The bottom line is, and this is a really good takeaway from this little buyer segment, if a property is a median price property within 30% of the median or below, and it's been on the market for more than 10 days, and it's actually on the market, it has pictures, and it's visible on Realtor.com and Zillow, and it doesn't have any offers, no offers after 10 days, and it's marketed, it's overpriced. It's that simple. And if you pay full price after 10 days, and it's got all the pictures and stuff out there, you're overpaying. It's that simple, unless the market is increasing, which is possible. Sometimes in like 2013, 14, 15, sellers would overprice their properties, but then the market was zooming up. They just had to wait, and then ding, they'd sell. And that reiterated the belief that, oh, well, I'll just wait 60 days for my property to sell. That's fine if the market's going up. But if the market's going down, you're even more cooked. So now let's talk about seller pricing. Then we're going to touch on the market, give you guys a little market update, and then we will answer questions. Hold on one second. All right, that was good. I'll bring the glass straw out in a second. I love the first few sips of coffee without the straw. All right, so what is this? This is a piece of paper. Okay, really. So this is what I call the, well, it says it right here, the market value range. And folks, this is super important for you guys to know, because this little chart, which if you don't have a little chart like this, it's really easy to draw. You just make a little box, and then you make these little whiskers at the end, and you get the same thing as this fancy little thing with the diamond, the gold diamond in here. I know, no whiteboard yet. I know what is up with this, but honestly, I'd just be taping this to a whiteboard because I like the little design. So here's the scoop. The market, as in the group of buyers, thousands of buyers that are out there, and realistically in a price range in a certain city, there are maybe only 20 to 30 buyers in a certain price range anyway, unless you're in like a really, really large city. This would be for like 100,000 city. 100,000 population. Okay, this little red line right here, that's the market value of any given property. Every single property has a market value. That's it, period. There's no question about that. Every single property that exists has a market value. But we don't know what that line is. Appraisers don't know what that line is. Real estate agents don't know what that line is. Zillow doesn't know. Redfin doesn't know. Nobody knows what that line is, because the market is hard to price unless you have a ton of volume happening. That little red line, for example, in stocks is whatever the stock price is. But because you have millions of stocks trading all the time, there's no question as to what the market value is, because you have very recent data of basically a commodity, of something that is exactly the same share every single time. Houses are different. It's impossible to know exactly what a house is worth. But this is what we do. And this is why I say you could just draw the box with the little whiskers, because what this box tells you, or how you can work the box, is you try to find out, and this is good if you're a buyer or an investor too. You should do this on almost all of your deals. You want to know, is a property, what is high for the property? What are the high comparable sales? What are the low comparable sales for the property? And this kind of gives you a range to where you know, well, I know it can't be worth this much because there's a house that has 400 more square feet selling for this price, so it must be worth less than that. oh, this house is way smaller and ours is in better shape and it's larger, so it must be worth more than that. And you keep doing that. So that's why you hunt for comps, and finding that data is so important. And that's how you slowly move in to approach what a market value could be. Now, this is really important. Here are the conclusions for this. Then I'll give you a little bit of insights in terms of seller pricing, which again, if you're a buyer and investor, is really important to know, because you're going to take away how sellers price property. And then we'll talk about the market and we'll answer questions. So there are 4 ways a property can be priced. Number 1, and this is sadly the most common, a property can be priced too high. When a property is priced too high, days on the market goes through the roof. And as we talked about, when you're a buyer, when days on the market goes through the roof, the end result of the value of the property is less than market value. The number 2 way to price a property is too low. This is really important to know as a buyer as well. Oh, I messed up my little chart here. This is really important to know as a buyer, is that when a property is priced way too low, like sometimes an auction or a short sale, it's going to get multiple offers, but you're going to end up right here at number 2, kind of along the lines of pricing too high. You'll get multiple offers. It'll get bid up, but there's a limit to how high something can get bid up, because at some point people just go, this is too high. This is way higher than I just can't give myself a reason to bid this high anymore. So both of these are bad scenarios, pricing too high or too low. Should get a different color marker here. Hold on. Let's get green. So these are the 2 proper ways to price a property. It's getting a little congested here. I'll just keep it on here. Okay. The number 3 method. This is by far the second most common method for pricing real estate, is you price it here in the box, so you're within the box to kind of, I'll show you there. You're within the box, and you're leaving a little bit of money on the table. So you're purposefully pricing it a little bit higher, but you're leaving some negotiating room on the table, and you're trying to end up on the higher side of the market value range. I'm going to give you the buyer conclusions here in a second. The 4th most common way to price a property, and this is probably sadly the least most common, is purposefully pricing for a bidding war, and not pricing too low, but pricing low enough to get a bidding war. And then you also tend to end up at a higher than market value range. So what are the conclusions for if you're a buyer? And remember, I'm going to answer questions in a moment here. What are the conclusions from this really messy chart if you're a buyer? Well, the conclusions are, if a seller is pricing a property too high, you call them up, and if they're in the median price range within 30% of the median, call them up. How many days are you on the market? Which you can see publicly. Do you have any offers? No offers, more than 10 days on the market. They're overpriced. For them to sell, they need to move into the box. And the odds are that by the time they drop their price, they're going to have to negotiate even further, because they're still going to be too high unless they do an appropriate price reduction to get them relatively close to that middle range. So there's a danger of starting too high. Really, really bad danger for sellers to start too high. Very good for buyers to know, though, because if somebody's priced out here and you write an offer, you could still end up overpaying for the property. So be careful with those really high-priced properties. There's a saying, a real estate agent saying, it's called list them high and watch them die. And that just means that generally when a property is listed super high, it won't sell. It ain't going to happen. So then as a buyer, the normal property that you're going to be up against, and this is what I was saying, as an investor, as a buyer, this is usually the property you're going to experience, is right here, number 3. You want to find a deal that's been on the market for 10 days. It's not super overpriced, but you're going to grind them down, and you're going to try to push them down, and you want to get on the lower end of that market value range. And the reason you're going to have the opportunity to grind is because there aren't other people competing against you. So you can really push. Now, if you're up against a number 2, which you usually see in short sales or foreclosures, where they way underprice, they don't competitively underprice, they way underprice, you could get a good deal on these, because yes, they're going to go up. And you might say, oh my gosh, this place is listed for $290,000 and there are offers for $310,000, $320,000. Well, the comps might be $330,000 or $340,000 because it's just way underpriced. So, but because there's so much of a distance, people oftentimes don't make it all the way up there. So consistently, when I look at historic data, I see properties that are priced way too low end up selling for less than market value. Now, this is the dangerous one. And the dangerous one is where something is priced relatively close to market value as a buyer, but it's priced so competitively, just slightly low, that people go nuts for it. The eBay auction effect kicks in, and people pay more than what the market value is just because they want it. They got to have it. They're tired of looking. That's the kind of stuff that's happening in investor hotbeds like, Compton right now in Los Angeles had a bad reputation. Now is a mecca for investors. And you could have a $550,000 property come on the market over there, and it just goes into crazy overbid. So keep this in mind that you can overpay by getting involved in a bidding war. It just depends what kind of bidding war is it. Was it priced competitively low, and where people are just getting unreasonable, or is it just priced way too low? And yeah, it's getting into a bidding war to bring it back to where it should be. So sellers, and then we're going to answer questions. It is very important to know that the only way you can even work this out to figure out what the value of a property is if you are on the market. If a property does not hit the market, if a property is in the coming soon phase and an agent is only exclusively showing it to their clients, the property generally will not sell for market value. There's an exception for this. If you are in that median price range up to 30% above the median, so if the median is $600K and a property is selling for up to say $780,000 or below, that is true. If a property sells pre-market, it's probably going to sell too low. However, luxury properties above 30% above the median are almost always priced at this end. You almost never see luxury properties priced for a bidding war because the buyer pool is so small. You might only have one buyer that's ready to pull the trigger on a $2 million property in an area. And if you price it low, that buyer's like, score, got a deal. So I guess if you're buying in the $1 million price range, you have something to look out for in terms of how to get a deal. But usually people price high. And those listings are also very competitive for agents to get. So people generally want to be very enthusiastic about overpricing these. So, if you are a median price property, do not sell a property prior to hitting the market. In fact, this is a strategy I do. I never, ever, ever let people into my properties until they're on the market if they're a median price property. That sounds crazy, but let me set this up for you. It's a really good takeaway. Watch this. If you have a median price property and you're going to list it for, say, $629,000, and you let somebody in a week before you're scheduled to go on the market, that person writes you an offer. Then you're like, thanks for the offer, but we're going on the market in a week. And then that buyer goes, yeah, well, my offer expires in a day. You showed me the property early, so you need to take my offer or I'm going away. So now you have this risk. If you take the offer, what if you could have gotten more money if you were on the market? Vice versa, if you let that buyer go, what if that would have been the best offer and now they don't want it anymore because they were emotionally upset or hurt or whatever? So that's why I don't let anybody in early. Dangerous in median price properties. So now let's see, what else have we got? So appraisals, I think I kind of touched on this. I'm going to use my cleaner box plot here. Appraisers also, just like realtors and Zillow and Redfin, we don't know what that market value is. And so the only thing we could do is try to figure out what the parameters are as to within what range that property likely is. But know that the purpose of an appraisal is to substantiate value to a bank. So there is a difference between appraised value and market value in that comps could be very high, and it could be very easy to substantiate a sales price to a bank because the market's falling and the comps are higher. Vice versa, when the market's going up and you got multiple offers on places, sometimes appraisals come in low because the comps are just lower. So anyway, let's see. I got two more things I want to talk about. Confidentiality of offers. There is no confidentiality of offers. And quite frankly, for a seller's perspective, it is not a good idea to not say anything about what kind of offers there are. Because, for example, if you have no offers and you lie, and say you have an offer and you actually don't, you might not get anybody else to write an offer because they get discouraged. If you have 5 offers on the property and you got a property that's listed for $200,000 and you have 5 offers and they're all at $200,000 and an agent calls and goes, hey, is anybody at $210,000 yet? And the agent goes, I'm not disclosing. Well, that could discourage that buyer's agent from actually representing their buyer and telling them to write, like, let's come in at 210. The bottom line is, at some point when you have multiple offers, more transparency is actually good for a seller because it gives people a scope. There is the thought that, oh, well, if you have blind bidding, somebody might just come in at 300K. It doesn't happen though, because nobody wants to be that loser that's so well overpaid. People want to know that, okay, I'm just eking the other guy out. Now, there are ways you can phrase this as a listing agent to increase the value for a seller. But to go dark on people when there's no confidentiality of offers in most agreements, and obviously there are agreements that are different, is a disservice to a seller. So, all right, folks, market data, the best part, and then we're going to answer questions. First, look at the kind of stuff I get in the mail. And I get emails and spam and stuff all the time. Look at that. And if you guys want to mail me anything, my P.O. box is on here. Are rising rates negatively impacting your business? This is the kind of stuff that I'm getting on a daily basis. And this is because I'm a licensed lender. It says, let's face it. And this is just a good indicator for you guys to know what's actually happening in the market out there and what people are feeling in the business. Let's face it, rising interest rates and continued low home inventory has caused refinance and purchase loan transactions to plummet this year. Like most broker owners, this sudden drop in business is most likely affecting your bottom line, blah, 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 blah. And then they try to sell you a service or whatever. So, gives you a little bit of an idea. Then, P.O. box address is 9452 Telephone Road, Ventura 93004. Here we go. This is the latest data, folks. This is big. Ventura, August 2017, from August 1st to August 18th, and this is or August 17th. This is Ventura County wide data. Stats August to date. We have 2017 data is 451 sales with a sold price of $610,000. Then we have August of 2018 to date, 404 sales, which is about a 10 to 11% decline in sales volume, and pricing $584,000. So good substantial decline in pricing again for August. So let's do that. 610. That's about a 4% decline in the median in just a matter of a month here. So we'll kind of see what happens. But folks, that's what I've got in terms of pricing, negotiating. I'm going to answer questions now, so stick around. If you've got questions, now's the time to ask them. A little recap on what we talked about if you're just joining. We talked about how not to get scammed if you're a buyer. Remember, the first 10, what do we got? The first 20 minutes are usually going to be like the most content rich. 25 minutes today, actually probably like 28 minutes today. We talked about pricing in real estate, how buyers should handle pricing, how to know if you're getting scammed, how to negotiate, when to grind, what to do in a bidding war, what the different price brackets are, the median, above the median, the luxury market. Then we did the same thing with sellers, and we talked about lowballs, investors, the coming soon phase, how a property needs to be marketed, days on the market. We talked about the market value range and the 4 ways properties are priced and the conclusions you can draw from them based on the amount of time they're on the market, what to do when a property is not on the market yet. We talked about a ton of stuff. All right, questions. So I'm going to scroll up here a little bit really quick. So let's see. Let's get some questions here. Yep, pricing is pretty ridiculous. What's this? We got this question here on lease options. I don't like lease options. What I see is fake it till you make it. Who are you talking about? Mucho speculation by heavily leveraged scamsters. The bottom will fall out. Yeah, so I don't think the bottom's going to go super fall out here. I don't think we're going to see more than an 8%, maybe 10% decline in prices. Do I need a real estate license to invest? No, and I don't recommend you get a real estate license unless you actually want to represent clients. That's the reason I'm looking out of state to more landlord-friendly states. I don't like that. Look, a lot of people do that. A lot of people did that in right before the last recession. A lot of Californians went to go buy in Florida. I don't like investing out of state. I don't like investing out of my area, even if I have a property manager, because I want to be within 30 minutes of my property so that I can know my market, know my neighborhood, know what's changing, who's moving in next door, is the property in disrepair? I want to be able to go visit the property and not want to shoot myself because the commute's so darn long and I'm sitting in traffic for hours getting there, or I have to work. Are you kidding me? Do I want to get on a plane to fly to visit my rental property? I would like never do that. No. And I don't want to go vacation there all the time. If you can't afford, watch my video yesterday if you can't afford these things on maybe how to get co-signers and things like that. Like what you said about house hacking. Only question is what happens if I'm invested in 3 to 4 units and I can't find tenants? I get that question a lot. You're always going to be able to find tenants if you price it correctly. Here's the beauty. Ask yourself this. If houses are renting for $2,000 and you put it on Craigslist for $1,000 for rent, I guarantee you with no pictures, $1,000 listing and a property address, people are going to be flooding you. You're going to have 50 applications like that. So you obviously don't want 50 applications. You want like 1 or 2 good applications. So you kind of have to just adjust your pricing to, if at $1,000, I'm going to get 50 applications. Well, what if I get 40, 30, 10, I need to be at $1,800 and then my place rents. So Northwest Florida, I used to live in Florida. I lived there for 16 years. South Florida, I used to live in Weston, Aventura, Davie, Plantation, Sunrise. That's it. I don't know. Oh, we lived in Naples for a little bit too. So I moved around. Should a first-time homebuyer wait to buy in downtown LA? I don't know if I would. LA is so hot right now. If you can get into a deal, especially if you can get into something before it hits the market, golly, if you could get into something in LA right now before it hits the market, I would jump. Definitely jump. What do major builders price homes at on the Whisker chart? Oh my gosh. Yeah, always meat on the bone, but you generally can't get their price. You generally can't get them to come off the price unless the market is just not buying them, and then they do price reductions. Generally, when you need to negotiate with a new home builder, you have to negotiate credits or incentives. So it's been tough convincing sellers. They are about 10% overpriced in Chicago. Any advice on that conversation? I'm a new broker, about a month in. Look, I've been doing real estate for 10 years, and I have the same problem. It's very difficult for me to sit down with a seller and say, look, we're at $600K. The market has changed. We need to be at $560,000, and we need to do this whole new marketing strategy to really push it and do everything we can. There are going to be sellers that say, look, it's just not worth me selling anymore. And that's where I tell all my clients this. I go, look, if we need to take the property off the market and rent it because that's what's best for you, I don't care if I have a 3-month contract. We'll do that because my reputation is more important. The last thing I want is a stale listing sitting on the market. I would rather advocate that my clients do the right thing and respond to the market, whether that means they rent it or drop the price. That isn't a hot market. Oh, sorry, I missed as far as which. What is a turnkey house? So a turnkey house is essentially where companies will go in and take my favorite kind of property to buy, which is the one that has the updated roof, furnace, water heater, fixtures, structures, and all that stuff. Structural elements, but it has the mold, the asbestos, the wallpaper, and the shag carpet. And they'll take that and cosmetically renovate it to make it beautiful, and then they'll stage it and they'll sell it to you furnished and with all of these cosmetic changes done. I personally don't like that because you are paying market value. I don't like paying market value for things. I like paying less than market value for things. I like buying in the wedge. So... what phrasing are you listening for if an agent is talking about receiving offers? What are they trying to say when they inflate the offer? Well, look, you just got to ask blunt questions, but you got to be nice. How many offers do you have? Oh, we got 3 offers. Oh, great. Congratulations. Good job on your listing. Hey, are any of them above $210,000? Oh, I can't say. Oh, well, I mean, I don't want to discourage my client. I mean, should I tell them we should pass because there's too much activity? Maybe we shouldn't write an offer. Oh, no. Yeah, nobody's above two. You got to figure it out yourself, but you can get it out of them. Houses in a half-mile radius sell within 10 to 30 days. A house just sold in 24 hours last week. Yeah, look, I sold property in 24 hours too in this market that's declining. But that's because I price them on purposefully here-ish right now when they're in the median range because I want my clients to be able to get out of the messy market and get the maximum value because guess what? Everybody's hearing that the market's declining. It's no look, if I'm getting letters like this, everybody knows the market's declining, especially in our area. Maybe it's not true in your area yet, but especially in our area, everybody knows the market's declining. What's up, man? Thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much, Ben. So everybody knows the market's declining. And to me, if I price a median price property a little bit below, and now there's a bidding war, buyers psychologically say to themselves, oh, well, the market must not be falling here. There's a bidding war on this property, and then they write offers. But if a property's sitting stale on the market and they won't write offers, no bidding war. All right, other questions. I love answering questions. Keep throwing them at me. What do you think about getting a single-family Airbnb, all rooms of a house, maybe an hour from the bay? I would not want to manage it. That sounds like a management nightmare. If you could find a management company that's not going to rip you off with their pricing to manage that, fine. But I don't know. Airbnb still kind of scares me a little bit. Maybe it's just because I've never done it. So take that advice with a grain of salt. Should I be concerned about a rental duplex with rear home entrance through alley? Should I be ready?
Ну ничего, кубочку все продам, живем.
I heard him hitting the med thing. Oh, zzz. Oh, okay, all right. Just walking. I walked in. I didn't run in. I just walked in. Looked at him. What is- He looked at me too. And I'm like, all right, bud. He looked at me, looked at his animation, and I'm just, I ran, just close, super close, put my rifle a little bit up, and look at him, and he looked at me, and just pulled the trigger. He headshotted the most in face. He had the most maxed out helmet and everything. I think it was an airframe. Ah. Come on, bro. Don't do me like that. Extracted. Come on, bro. I got Tarkov again. I know it. Oh, what the fuck? Come on, bro. Are you? Right in this moment is gonna time me out? Nah, bro. What you mean? What you mean, bruh? Equals game. Equals game. Ain't no. I loot, dog. You load your shit up. I don't know what the fuck to do. Come on, bruh. You got scammed, bro. What the fuck? Unrealistic. Game not realistic. Hey, come on, bro. Game not realistic. How about the other one? Are we there? Are we there yet, chat? Shit, we are. Here's my Switch. Game not realistic. And now it's on. It's back on. Game not realistic though. Game not realistic. And now it's on. It's back on. Game not realistic though.